Now women are performing, and the basic question many talented women are asking each other and asking me is, where are we going to find a good mate? I wrote a book, I gave a talk about this at TED a few years ago, a 3-minute talk, which is online, went viral, and they asked me to do a TED book, a little ebook. And since then, I've expanded it enormously, and the book was published in England. It was called Man Disconnected, How Technology is Sabotaging Masculinity. The Polish version is, Where Have All the Good Men Gone? Because this was a famous song in Poland in the 70s, with a sexy torch singer said, look at me, I'm wonderful, I can't find a guy. The problem is that theme is being repeated now. And we just updated our book for an American publisher, which will be out in January. And again, it's the same theme. People say it's temporary, it's a phase, guys go through phases. No. The video game industry is a multi-million-dollar industry that they work, they have geniuses working for them, to capture the eyes, the fingers, the brains, and even the hearts of young men. Women play video games, but not as much because the games are really designed for men. They're about dominance, they're about aggression, they're about violence, they're about conquering. So my concern is playing these games in excess and playing in social isolation. As a social psychologist, the most important thing is social connections. You play the game alone. Now the fantasy is you're playing with players all over the world. There's nobody next to you. There's no co-pilot. Obviously they could make games that require interaction, require planning. So what happens is, when you start playing young enough, kids now 6, 7 years old are playing, you don't learn basic social communication. You don't know how to talk to people. Many young guys have stopped chatting. They say, I text 100%, I don't chat. If you don't chat online and you don't talk to anybody, how do you learn the basic principles of verbal communication? Much of which is nonverbal. Much of which is making eye contact, understanding how you partition the amount of time you spoke. What do you do when, how do you keep a conversation going? How do you change the topic? There's hundreds of rules to learn, and the only way you learn them is by observing, same way you learn a natural language, by observing interactions and then by practicing. So my concern, and then the other thing is, so many young men are now addicted to video games. There's a video game addiction. Addiction is not the number of hours you play. So again, this mother who said her son only says love to him when he's talking about World of Warcraft. The mother and son were with me on Dr. Phil's show, and I asked him that. I said, is it true? So here's a kid, 16 years old. He's on national television. You think he would have the sense to say, oh, of course, I love my mother too. He said, yes, I love World of Warcraft. I want to slap him in the face. Stupid. And the mother's still crying. And then I said, how many hours do you play that game that you love so much? He said, not so much. I said, yesterday, how many hours did you play? 15. I said, what? He said, yesterday I played World of Warcraft 15 hours. Why is that a problem? Not knowing that if you play a game 15 hours, what are all the things you're not doing? You are consuming, you're not creating, you're not reading, you're not writing, you're not with people, you're not exercising. There's a whole world of things you're not doing because you're now consuming this game. The woman whose husband is addicted to pornography, this is now a new addiction, because for the first time in history, pornography is freely available 24/7 by pressing a button. In fact, there are 300 or more porn sites, many of which are free, some of which you have to pay $1 or something. And so, again, this is around the world, day and night, at any time, and there's no controls. Any kid, any child, we have evidence, kids in 6 are watching. It means you never learn what romance is, you never learn what intimacy is. Because in pornography, there is no romance, there's no touching, there's no kissing. It's all physical, displays, and also it's an unrealistic world where everything is edited. So every woman is stunningly beautiful, every man is a super stud, and almost every video goes exactly 20 minutes before the orgasm, it fades to black, and that's the end of it. And nobody kisses. So again, we have to become aware that it's either of those things in extreme and either of those things in social isolation. And that's, for me, that's the sin. So I want to switch now quickly to talk about heroes. But before I do, I have spent my lifetime trying to understand the nature of evil. In part because I grew up in the South Bronx, as I mentioned, and in the South Bronx, when I was a kid, it's a ghetto. As in any ghetto in the world, there are men whose job it is to corrupt little kids by giving them money to do bad things, to steal, to sell drugs, to girls to sell their bodies. And some of my friends who I knew were good kids went that way, gave in to temptation. Me and other kids didn't. So as a little kid, I was an intuitive psychologist saying, I wonder, what's the difference? How come they gave in? How come they gave into that temptation seduction and kids didn't, and other kids didn't? So I was concerned about the behavioral differences. And then I went on to do the experiment that was just mentioned, and it was the Stanford Prison experiment, which was an attempt to create evil, put good people in a bad place, to see, does the goodness of the people dominate? If all the guards and prisoners are good, shouldn't the prison end up being a good place, a place of harmony, compassion? Or does the power of the situation corrupt even all good people? Recently at Sundance Film Festival, a Hollywood movie based on my study appeared, and I'd like you to see a little piece of it. So let's go down to the prison.
Would you rather be a guard or a prisoner?
I don't think I have the qualities to be a guard.
Prisoner. Prisoner, I guess.
Prison sounds like it would be a little less work.
Prison.
Why's that?
Nobody likes guards.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This experiment will be an extension of my research into the effects prisons can have on human behavior.
You're going to be pleased to know that you all have been chosen to be prison guards.
But under no circumstances whatsoever are you to physically assault the prisoners in any way. So remember, just as you were watching the prisoners, my graduate staff and I will be watching you.
So the movie, I'm not sure if it's true to you yet, but it's gotten really good reviews. Thank you. So the interesting thing about the movie is that all of the dialogue between the prison guards is 100% accurate. Because when I decided to write The Lucifer Effect, which is many years after I did the prison study, I had to go back and review all the videos. We had 12 hours of videos, and then we made typescripts of it, because I wanted to remember what really happened in that study. And then what I did was I decided, when I wrote about the study, I had never written a book about it, I just wrote articles. I wanted to present it in first-person present tense. Instead of talking about it historically, I wanted the reader to be there. I wanted the reader to hear when Guard Eshelman says, 416, you know what I'm going to do if you don't eat those sausages? No, sir, what are you going to do? I'm going to shove them up your ass, boy. Please, sir, don't do it. So again, this is exactly what, and I put it in the book. But then when I was doing it, I was sending it to